here's a rule that will never steer you wrong. The second worst thing the government does are the things that Democrats do by themselves. The third worst are the things Republicans do by themselves. But the worst of all are the things that the two sides agree to do together, the bipartisan things. So, one example, which we may tragically see again in the near future, are all of the disastrous military conflicts we've been involved in over recent decades. Those were all bipartisan things. Here's another example, perhaps slightly less serious, but maybe not. And it happened yesterday when the Senate passed, by unanimous consent, the so-called Sunshine Protection Act. I haven't heard of a bill this misleadingly named since the, don't say gay bill, even though that wasn't really the name of the bill. The Sunshine Protection Act. This bill, greeted with much applause and fanfare by many in the public, would make daylight savings time permanent. Now, that's not to say that it would abolish daylight savings. No, it would keep us stuck in daylight savings eternally. The hour that we lost when we jumped ahead a few days ago will never be recovered. It's gone forever. It's banished to purgatory, never to be seen again. Now, the idea behind this proposal is, for one thing, to end the silly ritual where we switch our clocks back and forth arbitrarily. That's the part that most everybody can agree with, and I agree with. We've been switching our clocks back and forth for decades. Nobody knew why. Nobody wanted to do it. Yet the daylight savings tradition continued, lingering on, hanging there uselessly like some kind of vestigial limb, and it was time to end it. That's good. But the question is whether we end the tradition by making daylight savings permanent or by reverting back to standard time and just leaving the clocks there. Out of these two options, Congress, of course, has chosen the worst one, electing to turn daylight savings into a chronic condition. Two of the senators behind this ploy, Rubio and Edward Markey, wrote an op-ed for CNN congratulating themselves and extolling the brilliance of their plan. They wrote, quote, we can't always get bipartisan agreement in Congress these days, but here's one thing we can agree on. We could all use a bit more sunshine. That's why we're working together in the U.S. Senate to make sure we end the practice of spring forward and fall back by making daylight savings time permanent. Yes, they say the Sunshine Protection Act will literally protect the sunshine by giving us more of it. Now, I find it necessary to point out that no matter what the clocks say, there will be exactly the same amount of sunshine regardless. Now, Congress may imagine itself to be powerful enough to literally control the sun itself, but it's not. We're not giving ourselves more sunshine this way. We're not giving ourselves anything. We're merely agreeing by legislative decree to permanently pretend that it's an hour later than it really is. But why? Why are we doing this? Where did this come from? What the hell's going on? Well, let's go through a brief history of this madness. And I think most of what I'm about to say is basically true, but I didn't care enough to look it up, so we'll go with it. Daylight savings was first proposed by, I believe, Benjamin Franklin as a joke 250 years ago. He told it to his buddies at a bar, and everybody laughed and said, there's old Benny again with his wild schemes. And for the next 100 years, people continued to laugh at the joke. And then in the 1890s, a weirdo bug collector named George something or other decided that he wanted more time after work to stare at crickets and beetles. This megalomaniac actually wanted to shift time itself just to accommodate his pointless hobby. One hobby that I enjoy is night fishing. Okay, I like to go out fishing at night. But you don't see me suggesting that we blow up the sun so I can do it more often. That's essentially what George wanted to do. Slightly less drastic, but still a significant change. Now, fast forward to 1918, when daylight savings time was officially instated here in the USA. Our lawmakers at the time, they didn't say they were doing this so that a guy named George could look at beetles. Instead, they said that we were doing it for a few reasons, most importantly, to save energy. Now, how could changing the numbers on a clock save energy? How could it achieve anything at all? Who knows? But we did it. And since then, studies have proven that this policy, like almost all government policies you can name, utterly failed to achieve whatever it was supposed to achieve. It didn't save energy. It didn't force the sun to give us more daylight. It didn't usher in an era of utopia. It didn't do anything except annoy everybody. And now, after 100 years of this failed government policy, the government's decided to do what it always does when a policy fails, which is make it permanent. If it didn't work, do it more. That's the motto of our elected leaders. But many people in the public are celebrating this policy. As I mentioned, they insist that this will now give us more sunlight during waking hours. Of course, what they apparently don't realize is that there's another way to have more sunlight during waking hours. Wake up earlier. But no, people don't want to wake up earlier. They don't want to adjust their schedules. Instead, they prefer to manipulate time itself or try to manipulate. I mean, you could either adjust your schedule or adjust time itself. Which one should we do? Oh, I know, we'll adjust time. This is how lazy we've become as a society. Never mind the fact that your extra hour of daylight after work now means that school children are going to be walking to the bus stop in the pitch black for several months out of the year. Maybe some safety hazards there? You think that'd be enough reason not to do this? But who cares about safety if it means that you can have more sunlight after work? Sunlight that you're going to squander anyway by just sitting on your couch and watching Netflix. I like all these people pretending that I want more sunlight when I get home from work so I can go for a jog. You're not jogging. You're going to sit on your couch on your phone is what you're going to do. Stop pretending otherwise. What we should be doing, it's obvious, is abolish daylight savings entirely and revert back to standard time. Now, standard time is a human construct in the sense that any method of measuring time will inevitably be a human construct, but it was far less arbitrary. Okay, standard time was more closely aligned with the body's circadian rhythm and with the rising and setting of the sun. That's why standard time was devised. That's where it comes from. In fact, it's more important for your body and your mind to have sunlight in the morning than at night. It's not natural to have sunlight that late at night. Your body wants to wake up with the sun. That's how we're designed. Daylight savings is unnatural. It's an attack on nature and creation itself. We will have to answer for this come Judgment Day. One other point, not to make too much of this. Too late, I guess. But there's another serious problem. As I was discussing this on Twitter yesterday, many people insisted that we can and should make daylight savings permanent because time is an illusion, it's a construct, and we can do with it whatever we please. This, of course, is completely false. Our method of measuring and keeping time is a construct, but time itself is real. Time is simply the progression of reality from one moment to the next. Time ensures that everything won't happen all at once. Time is what keeps you from getting eaten by a T-Rex. Time is the movement and flow of existence. Yet these claims from the anti-time agitators only show how Congress, by making daylight savings permanent, has undermined faith and confidence in the reality of time itself. The United States Senate has caused many people to question the very meaning and existence of time. They've created a mass existential crisis, one which threatens the foundations of human society. Recklessly, the Senate passed this bill without even grappling with these questions and implications, without even first establishing what time is, where it comes from, or if it exists at all. Are the past and future but illusions? Are we trapped forever in eternal now? Legislation raises these questions, doesn't answer them. And now we're lost. Mass anarchy, madness, and despair will be the result. So not much of a change on second thought, I guess. Even so, for all these reasons, I hereby declare that as far as I'm concerned, daylight savings is canceled. Listen, hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.